It's time once again for the Roll for Crit News Roundup, wherein we cover some of the biggest, most important, most interesting stories from the world of board games from the past month. Also want to mention up top that Extra Life is coming up, the charity streaming event specifically for gaming to support children's hospitals, and we are taking part in it November 6th, Saturday, starting at noon Eastern. So go to rollforcrit.com, follow our social media for more details, because it would be a lot of fun if you would join us and help us support those charities at that time. But now, let's check out the news.
The World Series of Board Gaming is going to be held next year in Las Vegas from September 28th to October 2nd. This is a competition where there'll be multiple tables where you can win rings and cash prizes. And there'll be plenty of games to play, from family-friendly ones to much longer hardcore games. If you think that you've got the skills to actually attend this, you can visit their website, or you can sign up for our contest. Simply go to our iTunes page for the podcast, leave a review and email us, and you may have a chance to win a ticket to this World Gaming Series. Now, it's interesting because usually when we hear contests or competitions like this, it's for a specific game type, like a Magic the Gathering Premiere, or maybe something for just Ticket to Ride. The fact that there are multiple tables for different games is interesting and definitely more appealing to the omnivores among us.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. In fact, we were part of kind of the announcement. A lot of different content creators were a part of this. Our game that we announced is going to be there is Carcassonne. Very exciting. So
just to give an idea of the extremes of the different variety. It's not all just the usual games, like the Board Game Geek's top 5 games.
Right. But Carcassonne, I think it is tournament worthy. It's can be more casual, but there's strategy involved there, and it will be very interesting to see how people manage to balance those more hardcore with the lighter games, and who is going to be, as you said, like the omnivore thing is very important. You have to kind of have skills in a lot of different areas. You can't just specialize.
Next year, or the year afterwards, they're going to do a challenge where you have to actually jump between tables between turns. So you're going to have to really mix up your strategy there.
That's really going to bring it up a notch. In the past month or so, some unfortunate news has come out regarding the publisher Paizo, who is behind the role-playing series Pathfinder. There are some less than ideal working conditions over there related to cleanliness and how they treat their employees, among other things. As a result, some of the employees came together and formed the United Paizo Workers Union. Since then, Paizo has actually recognized that union voluntarily, so they do not have to go through a lot of red tape or legal things. They are officially recognized and now are in a position to start bargaining and negotiating with the executives at Paizo for some of the things that they want. One of the first things that they mentioned that they're going to start trying to get negotiated is a better wage for their workers. So this is pretty significant because it's one of the first big unions in the tabletop industry, and we're still a relatively young industry, so it'll be interesting to see if this carries on with other publishers or how beneficial it ends up being for those workers.
And of course, for me here in America, I've heard more news of unions failing. So to see this one succeed and just be voluntarily, as you said, recognized is going to be something we're all going to now watch and see how this turns out. And we're going to see other companies do it. Will we see Wizards of the Coast and see some more unions pop up there, or maybe Asmodee and stuff? Will this affect how the Asmodee's $2 billion selling price if a union gets formed there?
Yeah,
it's definitely going to be something curious to see, and hopefully things work well.
Yeah, I think it's very encouraging. I think good on Paizo for at least taking this step, even though they haven't been perfect according to the reports that we've heard. And we'll see exactly what their demands are. And like you said, if it leads to more unions, maybe even a larger, all-encompassing board games union of some kind in America, there's a lot of different places this could go.
One of the biggest game mechanics that made a splash over the last decade are legacy games, and the one that started it all was Risk Legacy. Now Hasbro has announced a new Risk Legacy game, not called Risk Legacy, called Risk Shadow Forces. This is a new game set in the year 2050, where the world has sort of collapsed and you, as warlords, are taking advantage of the situation and trying to conquer the world. The game will not have the same designers of the original Risk Legacy. It's going to be designed by Craig Van Ness, who designed games such as Star Wars Epic Duels, but you may know that as Unmatched, which is the sort of spiritual successor that doesn't have Star Wars attached to it yet. Now, there are some other changes in this. It does seem that it's going to use a lot of the same mechanics of Risk Legacy, but there is now, for example, a second board where you're going to be doing little skirmishes with opponents in there. And of course, being a legacy game, I'm sure there's a lot more going to it. They've also said that they're going to try to put a bigger emphasis on story in this as well. So my guess is it's going to be something similar to Pandemic Legacy, where depending on what happened in previous months, they're going to bring that up, and maybe there's some big crisis at the end. Who knows what's going to happen? But like we said, Risk Legacy wasn't one to start at all, even though Pandemic Legacy is the game everyone thinks of when you say legacy. What are your thoughts on this version?
I mean, honestly, it's surprising a little bit that it took them this long to capitalize, because Risk Legacy was really popular. There's a reason it spawned all these other games that arguably dwarfed it. But since Pandemic Legacy, you'd think they would have realized, oh, we should capitalize this on and do a new one like they did Season 2. So it's cool that they're finally doing it. And I do think Risk Legacy was, because it was so early, it had some rough spots. But now it would be cool to see, oh, they kind of know what a legacy game should look like and what it should be. And maybe they can do something even more innovative and different with it within that framework.
My guess is from Pandemic Legacy, where I'm just going to guess that's where they're going to take a lot of inspiration from, is there's going to probably be a bit more attachment to your faction. In the original one, you could swap it up a bit. In this, you do still draft them, but I have a feeling there's going to be something that may make it a bit more attached to a certain group. Because I know that was a big thing for Pandemic Legacy. People were attached to a certain role, even though you could shuffle between months. But we'll be able to find out when it's released sometime in fall 2022.
Last month, we talked about KeyForge, the unique card game from Fantasy Flight designed by Richard Garfield, and the fact that their algorithm broke. This is the algorithm that allowed them to create unique decks, so that every deck you buy in this game is always different. They need a pretty powerful, complicated algorithm in their computer systems. If you're a technological person, you probably understand it better than I do, in order to generate those decks, and it stopped working. At least that's what they said. Now we have heard some insider information by way of podfather of gaming Stephen Bonacore on his podcast, Board Games Insider, and he says he has an inside source that revealed that, in fact, the algorithm didn't just break all by itself. It didn't spontaneously combust. Rather, there was a ransomware attack by some hackers who held that code hostage and demanded some amount of money from Fantasy Flight. And when Fantasy Flight refused to give in, they went ahead and got rid of all the data. And that is what resulted in the delay we're now experiencing, waiting for new KeyForge content. Pretty wild story, not verified. Technically, we can't verify any of this, but it sounds to me pretty reliable, and it makes sense in light of the things it feels like it fills in a lot of the gaps we didn't understand.
Yeah, it seems odd for something to just break.
Right. Like, unless somebody just dropped a hard drive by accident.
Oh, God. That poor intern who just tripped over a cable to unplug the computer and erased everything. But no, I mean, ransomware attacks are becoming more often, and hopefully, I really wish they would say, because I wish other companies then would all take and be like, all right, we're going to back things up. And of course, I've seen this spawn plenty of other rumors. At least this one, I think, came from a more reliable source. Like, I heard one that this is why Unfathomable doesn't have as much art, because that was also part of the ransomware, but that seems like that one feels a bit more like
yeah, I don't buy that one.
But the KeyForge algorithm, it makes sense. And also it makes sense why they wouldn't say it either, even though, like I said, I'd want them to.
I think the silver lining is that this gives them the chance to maybe make it a little more refined, make it better, and maybe integrate it with the upcoming digital version of KeyForge that they're working on. So hopefully they get it up and running soon, and we see KeyForge back in action sometime in 2022.
Pokemon cards. They have had their anniversary, so they have a celebration set going out right now. It's not like a regular booster box. You can only get most of the stuff in like pre-packaged products, either with figures or tins. But the reason why I bring up Pokemon is because there was another fun little story in which a man in Georgia has pleaded guilty to COVID relief fraud. He applied for a COVID relief loan with a made-up business in the entertainment services, and apparently with 10 employees, and received a loan for $85,000. Apparently, he decided to use this money to buy apparently one single Pokemon card for $57,789. He has pleaded guilty for this fraud. Unfortunately, As of now, we do not know what Pokemon card he actually bought for that much. I've tried to look it up, and we saw some things close, but nothing I could say for concrete because, things can fluctuate, and maybe he got a deal or he was ripped off.
We're putting the word out now. If you have information on the Pokemon card that this man purchased, let us know. We need to find out what it was. But yeah, this is wild. Pokemon cards are going through a lot of weird things this year. I'll tell you, they started selling Pokemon cards at Wawa.
Yeah, no, I was on a road trip, I think, for a wedding. I remember I stopped for like a bathroom break in the middle of nowhere. I don't even remember what store. And it was just like, they had like a few packs of Pokemon. Like, why do you have that?
Yeah, they're just like cigarettes now. They're just at the counters of every place.
They are as addicting.
And yeah, like cigarettes, they're addictive and shouldn't be sold to children.
By the way, the card that I found was closest in price, I think, was a Golden Magikarp, which seems fitting in terms of the ripoff in the show.
Yeah, you should have learned your lesson from that one episode. If you're wondering what came out in the last month in the board game world, we've got you covered right here with our new releases, starting with the Arkham Horror card game revised core set. This is the LCG from Fantasy Flight that has players working together to solve mysteries and stop evil, great ones, elder ones, eldritch creatures of all kinds. This new core set is pretty much the same game as the original. The rules are the same and all that, but it features additional cards from later expansions and allows for up to 4 players to play just from this core set. So if you are new to the game, this is a great way to start off and have some extra bang for your buck. Then we have Clash of Cultures Monumental Edition, another big new version of an older title. This is a civilization building game. This one includes the Aztecs expansion and some new 3D model miniatures, so it's going to look prettier on your table. The Crew has a new version, Mission Deep Sea. The original The Crew was a cooperative trick-taking game wherein players had to figure out how to deal with certain tricks with limited communication. This new one is the same basic setup, but the theme is now centered around going underwater to find a lost civilization, and there's going to be a whole new set of missions with different twists and turns for you to contend with. Crimes and Capers is a new series from Renegade Game Studios, and there are 2 new versions that are out right now that you can check out, Lady Leona's Last Wishes and High School Hijinks. Each one provides a one-time playthrough that's kind of a hybrid escape room and murder mystery dinner party game. We reviewed one of these and we're going to be trying out the other as well, so maybe something you want to look into if you like these kinds of mystery games. Dinosaur World has some new releases. First, Dinosaur World. This is the successor in some ways to Dinosaur Island from Pandasaurus Games. It's a worker placement game in which you are trying to build your own theme park with dinosaurs while also trying to limit casualties and making sure that the customers at your attractions are not getting eaten by dinosaurs. And then as a companion, Dinosaur Island Rar and Write was also released. Same basic premise. In this one, you are doing a roll and write experience trying to fit different attractions of different shapes onto your own personal player sheet. The Dragon Prince Battle Charged is a new release based on the animated Netflix series. This is a miniatures skirmish style game with tactics. There's also cards you'll be playing to help your characters. You will have a team of different characters from the series and choose how to play them, how to place them and position them in order to take on your opponents and be the best Dragon Prince you can be. That's not really how the show works, but it sounded good when I said it. Speaking of dragons, Dungeons & Dragons has a new book release, Dungeons & Dragons Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. Even more dragons than you could possibly imagine if you're into Tiamat and all those other guys from D&D. This one goes into that, more lore and history, as well as the gem dragons coming to the 5th edition, and more background info for Dragonborns. Basically, if you like dragons at all and you want more of them in D&D, this book is for you. Dune, of course, just came out as a film, and also to complement it, we now have Dune House Secrets. This is from Portal Games. It's based on their detective system, so it's a cooperative game wherein players will be investigating and trying to accomplish tasks using cards as well as a website, and work through a series of chapters that are included in the game, even gaining experience and new abilities along the way in this sci-fi desert universe.
Great Western Trail has received a new edition. This is actually a new one in a pack of 3, with the other locations being released later. This is a deck building game when you are in the Wild West and you need to move along paths trying to outsmart your opponent's business locations, avoid hazards, and sell cows. The Loop is a game that we also did a review for. In this game, you will be playing as the agents in a time agency trying to stop an evil Dr. Foe from messing up time, so you'll have to run around, work together, gather artifacts, and stop his plans. Night of the Ninja is a game in which your goal is to assassinate your enemy ninja clan. Problem is, you don't know who it is. You'll be sitting around the table and you'll be taking actions, whether to try to find out more information, playing the spy or the fortune teller, or maybe playing the ninja or assassin to actually try and kill someone. Now, there's Rorschach, which is a party game in which you have two teams trying to guess and read someone's ink blots. Someone is going to look at cards and secretly decide how they match with certain words. Then the teams are going to have to compete and try to guess which words correctly correspond to which ink blot. There's also Small Islands, which is again has a new addition from Lucky Duck. This is a tile laying game. When each round you'll get secret objectives, trying to find new things, either be temples, islands with resources, and well, explore the wild seas. Then you got 10, a push your luck game in which you'll be drawing cards, trying to put them in order number, trying to go over 10 and go bust. And get that wild card. You'll be able to get it to fill out those gaps and maybe the number you didn't get. Whirling Witchcraft is a game in which you are all trying to make potions really fast, and when you do, the ingredients you use to make the potion are thrown into your opponent's cauldrons. So this is a game when you're all frantically trying to make as many potions as you can, hoping someone else goes bust, and therefore you can score on them. Finally, we've got Wild Space from Pandasaurus. This is a game when you make an animal crew and trying to build stronger combos each time, get more credits, take on more outer space adventures, and also just have really cool crew members and different animals.
Some of this, I think, is also residual stuff from people releasing stuff at Gen Con and Essen, so a lot of that now is circulating to the masses. But yeah, a lot of big releases. Also, we are, of course, approaching the holiday season, and we will have a holiday gift guide going up soon, so stay tuned to our channel if you want specific recommendations on that front. And I'll also take this time to, again, remind everyone and plug our Extra Life stream, which is going to be November 6th, and our contest we're running for the World Series of Board Gaming. You can go to rollforcrit.com/contest for the full details on that. But yeah, interesting month. You know, the Paizo story, I think, is the biggest story that's really going to be the thing going forward that could really shake up the industry.
It's going to be one I'm sure we're going to keep an eye on and be reporting back on as things progress. But of course, let us know what story caught your eye the most. Are you excited to hear about this union? Are you willing to pay $57,000 for a card? You can let us know in those comments down below.
Please do so. Let us know what you think. Until next time, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Will.
And this was Roll for Crit, a news roundup. Do us a favor, like this video, subscribe to our channel, or if you really like us, you can support us on Patreon. Become a high roller today for exclusive bonus content. We also have a podcast now. You can check that out at rollforcrit.com/podcast. Weekly episodes with special guests you definitely want to listen to.